Hi, and welcome to today's program. We are here at Institute for X to cover an exciting workshop about tools for change. So we're going to talk about connection with ourselves, with the community, about activism, and honoring our pain. Follow us.
Just to elaborate on it, it's like a kind of way to solve this, get people that are not in your specific field to be interested is some kind of the same things that you said. It's like finding a common ground, because I think that most people in some way or another deep down share some of the same human values, and start finding these values and agree on some broader terms, and therefore you can work down and finding the things that you agree on and the things that you disagree on, and why you disagree and agree on them, and does these agreements and disagreements actually correspond to the values that you are actually sharing in the first place. And I think through that conversation with people that you started thinking was opposite to you are actually very like you in the longer run. And through this conversation of sharing the same values and discussing where you're different on them, I think, and that's personally from a climate perspective, that you will always find a common ground that you can work from. Because you also have to accept people's differences in your work. And that's personally, I think, the hardest thing to do is having the same goal but using different tools to get there. And again, from my own experience, if you take the time and the patience with people that you actually started disagreeing with, it typically ends up being that you have come a much longer way because you have agreed on a lot of things. And this kind of a trait between people, because if you give something of if they have a agenda and you have an agenda and you can agree on some more broader values, then you can trade with each other. Like, if I help you with this, you help me with this, because both of the agendas that you have typically corresponds with a shared or common value. So I think it's a give and take perspective in these kind of activist movement. If you want to collaborate with other people or get people interested in your cause that are not interested in the first place, giving something of yourself and then getting something from them. It's like a kind of very basic trade between perspectives.
And you also want that? And I think from the movement, the Green Student Movement, I've really learned that talking about your feelings is a very good way to finding that common ground, because then you somehow humanize the conversation, and you are not getting angry with a person when they are telling you their true feelings, how they are feeling, because then you need to get to an understanding, because being a human is also like understanding the people around us feelings. That's a huge part of our communication. So if we start with communicating about our feelings and then therefore go to talk about how we can develop from there, it's a quite good stepping stone. Yes.
Oh, there are many hands. Yeah, let's take, you want to do also. Yeah. You, and you. And you, okay.
Yeah.
Go.
I have been introduced to this model before, and I've tried it in my leadership, and it was super helpful, because I think we often tend to always focus our energy to the opposites, or the ones who are putting the branch in the wheel, like you say in Danish too. And I think it comes down to what resources we have. If there's a lot of resources at that moment in space and time, it's maybe okay to focus on the opposite, but other times it's also about gaining from the allies, and other times it's about maybe focusing on the neutrals or the ones that are passive allies. That's also very, it gives a lot of energy, I think, to see someone growing together.
And in the situation with someone who's in the opposite, and very much in alignment with starting out with the feelings, but also approaching it in a way that is not. I like to look at this like teacher-student relationship that seems to have been turned around in our understanding of what it is. Because actually, if you see the teacher as someone who's giving something to the student, like I'm giving you something of my perspective and I want to teach you how you should see things, I'm only teaching my own limited perspective of myself. But as if I'm, on the other hand, if I'm turning it around and seeing myself as a student, and it's also very much in thread with that, like asking people questions, because a lot of the time people don't know why they are acting in the way they are acting. And a lot of the times I don't know. So asking the questions opens this space, like just like we do here, and it's really, really seeing myself as this student, like I'm here to learn something about you and why you are here. And I feel like when I move from that perspective, everything happens on its own. It's like the tension and the what do you say, it dissolves on its own, because it softens. And it makes people more aware, and I feel like it's awareness that's where the seeds are sown in some way.
Thank you for bringing this up, and and I see again a round of hands coming up. So let's make a collective decision. Either we stay here because it's 10 to 3, and we have like about 10 minutes for this work done. So we stop on this point, and that's fine. Or we kind of wrap it up and move on. So let's see the hands of who wants to stay on talking about allies and the spectrum. Raise your hand. Let's do that. Okay, and who would like to move on? Okay. Not that I'm always into democratic rule, but this was the democratic rule. Let's move on, because there's for sure, these conversations can go on forever, and I know that there's important things to add. And please stay, make a coffee tomorrow together, keep talking. And thank you, Richie, for raising this question. It's really, really important, and it stirs a lot. And I will send you this link also, but one short maybe. When the pandemic started, there was a series of online talks called Wellness of We. And the one that really stayed with me the most was, again, this like really thinking about the me versus we, and that it's like, if we are strengthening ourselves as a collective, also the spectrum of allies is moving, and thinking of, and I think this position that we all need healing. Like seriously, white people who are killing people of color, men who are violent towards, like there's something hurting in people to be able to do things like this, robbing lands away, destroying the land, destroying the life of this planet that we are all living on. There's something hurting deeply. So we like, and again, this is, you may or may not agree with this, but this is where I stand, and I think that there needs to be collective healing. That doesn't mean that each one of us is responsible to, now again take this like savior modus and I'm going to fix everything. Also asking ourselves, am I the right person to bring this change? Do I have the perspectives needed for this work that I'm trying to do? Do I have enough support, allies in this? And then if I want to work with a person who is completely having opposing, can can I find somebody who has this connection to this person instead of like going in? So there's like, I think this perspective of this collective healing and thinking how can we support one another to build these partnership alliances has been very helpful sometimes to navigate. And then still there's no answer, and it's contextual, and as you were already all bringing up these things. Okay. All right, that's a big one.
Just a little, just not long, because it's also maybe the main reason that I'm here, one of the main reasons that I can be here today, but why I'm here. Because to touch people that are far away from our concerns is really important, and etc. And it's more like strategies, and just to say we go further or what. But if we can maybe keep contact or just share solution or examples or things like that after this day, it could be really nice. Even if it's in months and months, that's just people send a link to a story or what in Amazonian, I don't know. They organize a party to seduce those lender or what, and then at the party they slightly diffuse some message or start to talk, to be a bit sneaky or do marketing. Because marketing is fighting against, not against it, but it's trying to bring us efficiently, and we can also do marketing in our way. That's it.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's a big topic, but
yes, let's create a space to gather things together, and yeah, okay, I'm not gonna say. Just again, that like thinking of what's like inner circle of, I think that's like really potent, powerful change can happen. And what Lina was bringing up, I just really kind of feel like raising it up, like silence is also an action. And I think maybe that's my also opinion, but this glorification of doing like the fights, and then we convince the people who like the far right ones, and this is where and this is needed work, but that I think that there's so much unused potency for change on our doorstep, like talking to our grandma, not walk the far right or whatever it is, like really here. And it will not be visible, it will not make the newspaper headlines, probably nobody will give you the heroes or heroines badge that you did this, and it's so potent for really doing this collective change, just right here, and yeah, and I feel that very often it's true, we are in the same, and looking around who is not here today and why they are not here today, and what creates inaccessibility to this kind of spaces. Important questions, and yes, often it is that we are the same people again in the same rooms, but I feel that like who are almost there and are not here, and how to start building these. I think it's like, for me, and again, not to say it's the only way, but like I find it like extremely hopeful, powerful thing to really think about this. What's around? Can I make this, can I make this one sandwich stand a change? and of course we need bigger change than this, but they all come together somehow, and like, where can we push? Okay, well, that was my monologue, sorry for that. Sometimes it happens. Okay, so with the gift circle, the invitation is to, when you leave, take your paper, the one where you wrote your needs, so you have it, that's yours. It's your own responsibility if you want to follow up on reaching out to the people who signed their name. Maybe also after this there was somebody didn't sign something, to maybe scream into the room, who did this and who didn't say their name, so I can connect with you. I think one way also is that so far maybe it's just me who has all your emails, so when I send the aftercare email, maybe I will make them not BCC but like CC. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable with their email, feel shared, come to me after the workshop and I will not do it, but else, so you will see the contacts of everyone, so you can actually follow up with the people who offered you something. That was about the gift circle. I think there's nothing more to add to that. And this is our last 20 minutes together today. So it's time to move towards harvesting and closing and opening. I think every closing is actually a new opening, and I'm so glad to see that the connections that are happening. So yeah, that's then hopefully some of them grow beyond this space. So yeah, that's what I had to offer in a 4.5, a bit more than 4.5 hours today. Maybe hopefully there's another time to work together. For today, that's more or less that. For the harvesting part, I would like to offer to take a few minutes now to jot down what it is that you are taking away from this whole experience today, sharing with one another, thinking about questions, looking at the action habits that kind of maybe it's also helpful to browse through once again what we actually were offering into this space, and just jot down some things for yourself. Questions, learnings, reflections. And as we started with the circle, we will close with a circle of everyone's voice in 2 parts. The first one, in whatever you wrote down, circle 3 words that stand out most to you, and we'll ask you to offer these 3 words in the space without comments or like explaining them. If you didn't write anything, then find this moment of silence to find the 3 words within you. And then whoever feels like they would be up for starting, you start, and you pass the circle left or right. I resource myself a lot in poetry. I also realized some years ago that everything I read is mainly books on on system structures, activism, and that somehow I'm almost never reading novels anymore as a waste of time, which is horrible, I know. So I started reading science fiction and poetry, and as a way to resource and really connect with other parts of myself. So I brought one of my favorite poems into this space, and my proposal is to read it collectively as a closing. It's a poem called Continue by Maya Angelou. If you don't know of her yet, very warmly recommended to look her up. And the proposal is to just read 1 line each, and we continue until it runs out. Let's see, and let's try to keep the rhythm of that. So maybe I can start, and I will pass it on to you, and then okay. My wish for you is that you continue.
Continue.
To be who and how you are.
To astonish a mean world.
With your acts of kindness.
Continue.
To allow humor to lighten the burden
Of your tender heart.
Continue.
In a society dark with cruelty.
To let the people hear the gunter.
Of God in the peace of your land. Laughter.
Continue.
To let your eloquence
elevate the people to heights
they had only imagined.
Continue.
To remind the people that
each is as good as the other.
And that no one is beneath.
No, above you.
Continue.
Oh, sorry.
To remember your own young years.
And look with favor upon the lost.
And that no one is
To put the mantle of your protections
Around the bodies of
The young understanding.
Continue.
to take the hand and the despised.
And deceased, and walk proudly with them.
In the high street.
Some might see you and
There is one more thing, but it takes different time for different people. It's not very like. There's a feedback link, and I would like the page before they continue. Please fill it in today, here, before you leave, or else it will never happen. But I really, really need it and appreciate that. But before that, let's just give an applause to each one of us together for creating this space. Thank you so much. This is the end. Please fill in the feedback form, and we'll keep in touch. And I'm here if you have some questions or comments. The feedback form is anonymous.
Do you have any final message about the workshop to participants or to people that didn't participate?
Final message. Continue. I think that was my final message, to read collectively this poem, to continue.
That's a really nice message. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Why did you come to this workshop, Tools for Change?
Because I want to meet people in the same journey I am, and I want to learn more about how can we do positive change and how to, the methods, what other people, and the stories are also very important today.
And did you already know some of these tools? What did you learn today?
Yeah, I learned about how to facilitate a safe space, for example, which I think is a great tool to start when you want to work with people in groups. And I also take with me a lot of learning on appreciating and our pain along this path and evaluate it, feel it and honoring that pain that also come along when you do activist.
And how are you going to use the tools that you learned today?
Yeah, I use it every day, and because I work with my team and social art, so we kind of do this type of practice every day and co-create together. And yeah, I'm just gonna go down to a meeting now and I put in practice some exercise I learned today. So I think it's great. Like, if you have a playground, how to use it and how to put in practice is super valuable work what they do.
Why did you come to this workshop?
I came to the workshop Tools for Change because of Institute for X, the place that we are at right now. I'm a part of Institute for X, and I got the invite from the board. And I thought it was a great way to meet other activists and volunteer workers, as I'm a volunteer myself, and get some new perspectives on how to make volunteer work.
Did you learn something new today, or did you already know some of these tools?
I think that the primary reason that I came here was to meet other people and hear their perspectives. And I think that I have learned a lot more about actually doing activism and how to actually get people involved in your project. I have a project for a pro-nuclear organization, and we have made a lot of background work and analysis, and we have not made these events and getting people together. And there's a lot of people in there that have a lot of experience with these types of events, and they've given me a lot of great resources to work with in the future.
What's the name of this project?
Of my project, it's called Foreningen Atomkraft Ja Tak, and in English it's the organization supporting nuclear power. So nuclear power, yes please.
So you're basically going to apply this type of tools to that project mainly?
Yeah, it's mainly therefore I'm here is to learn from other climate organizations and other like volunteer-based organization of how they motivate and inspire people that are maybe not interested in the first place into getting involved in your movement or supporting your movement. And we had a very interesting conversation about whom are our allies in this whole, what can you say, this whole movement. And we were agreeing on the people that are neutral is actually some of the most important people, because the silent people are actually supporting the opposition for your project. So getting in touch with the neutral people, the silent majority, if you can call it that, it's a great way to work with it, because then you don't have to persuade or try to discuss with your opponents, but try to get some new voices that are not particularly interested in the first place, but you can maybe put a thought or two into their head and get them on board of your project. Yeah.
Did you ask some people to talk with you also? Or? Start with the participants after the workshop, or
But if not, yes, I would appreciate it.
Then you tell me. It's also what's coming up, and I actually really like these, but more like for you in your collective or with the people who you do certain activist work with, yeah. So you talk from the person and the struggles with confidence and taking up too much space, and this, there's things happening in Denmark.
That was all from Tools for Change in Institute for X. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe we'll see each other next time.